Throughout July, blueandgold.com will feature a countdown of the 25 most pivotal figures counted on to help lead Notre Dame back to the college football playoff in 2021. This is not necessarily about who is the best player or the top pro prospect. It's more along the lines of individuals that need to either emerge, remain a centerpiece, or significantly elevate their production to help the Irish reach that goal. Much is based on talent and impact, but a premium is also placed on these questions for our top 25 list. If you subtracted this individual from the roster, how much of a setback would it be? If this less proven player emerges and makes an impact, how much does that raise the ceiling or lower it if a breakout does not happen as expected? So with that context out of the way, we started our top 25 most important players series at blueandgold.com last week. We are through numbers 25 to 18. If you're not following the series at blueandgold.com, this video will get you caught up, and then you can make sure to catch the rest of those articles at blueandgold.com. There were 5 Blue and Gold staff members that contributed to this list. We basically sent in numbers 1 through 25 of our personal list and then pulled it together, and this is what the result was. 5 staff members: myself, Mike Singer, Patrick Engel and Tyler Horka, Steve Downey, and Todd Burlage. Checking in at number 25, kicker Jonathan DOERER. He even had a high ranking of number 14 per Todd Burlage, longtime Blue and Gold writer. Kicker was an interesting one for me. I did not have DOERER on my personal list. I tried to put him in that 24, 25, but it's just tough. Kickers are super important, but some other positions are really important as well. In 2020, DOERER made just 15 of 23 field goal attempts. That's 65%. Missed 3 kicks from inside 40 yards and was just 4 of 9 in his final 5 games. He used the COVID-19 blanket waiver to return for an extra year of eligibility. Call it a super senior year, if you will. Notre Dame brought in Joshua Bryan, a scholarship kicker in the 2021 class, but DOERER, Notre Dame certainly is happy to have him back for this year, and hopefully for the Fighting Irish's sake, he gets back to more of that 2019 form where he is more consistent. MARIST LIUFAU, linebacker for the Irish, checks in at number 24. He started the ACC championship game against Clemson and the college football semi-final playoff matchup against Alabama. Recorded 6 tackles in those contests. He was in and out of the lineup last year, but he seems primed to take the next step now as an upperclassman. We'll see where LIUFAU ends up in Marcus Freeman's defense. I would assume it's the will linebacker position, which was termed the buck linebacker in Clark Lee's scheme at Notre Dame. But will linebacker, look for LIUFAU and Shane Simon to be mainstays at that position. And here is certainly the most interesting one from numbers 25 to 18 that we're talking about in this video. It was the ranking of Drew Pyne, sophomore quarterback for the Irish. Myself, Patrick Engel, and Steve Downey did not have Pyne in our personal top 25s. Tyler Horka and Todd Burlage, though, had him at 8 and 17, respectively. Here's what Notre Dame offensive coordinator Tommy Rees told blueandgold.com in June in an exclusive interview. He's a naturally talented passer. He's accurate. He's on time. He has built his body to a way that he's now able to stretch the field horizontally and get the ball to all parts of the field. He's a guy who's naturally accurate and on time. He knows how to play the position the right way. He absolutely works his ass off to get there. And I figured if we're going to talk about Drew Pyne being in the top 25 most important players list for Notre Dame, according to Blue and Gold, let's bring in the man who basically is the reason that Pyne was in the top 25. My personal list, he wasn't in there. Tyler Horka. This is Tyler's debut on our YouTube page, by the way. So welcome in, Tyler. We hired him just a couple weeks ago. We're just going to throw you into the fire here. You had Drew Pyne number 8 on your most important players list. Tell us why.
Honestly, I think it's a little bit of post-traumatic stress disorder from covering Mississippi State the last 2 seasons. If you go back to 2019, Mississippi State brings in Tommy Stevens from Penn State. He's supposed to be the guy. He wins an offseason quarterback battle against Keaton Thompson, who had already been there for 2 or 3 years. He was kind of entrenched. He was supposed to take the torch from Nick Fitzgerald and run with it. He didn't. Tommy Stevens wins the quarterback battle. What happens? Tommy Stevens just kind of has an up and down season. He's replaced by not even Keaton Thompson. He's replaced by a true freshman in Garrett Schrader, who was also since transferred from Mississippi State because Tommy Stevens was so erratic. He couldn't stay on the field. He had injury concerns. It didn't work out for him. You go to last season, Mississippi State takes on another graduate transfer from Stanford, this time KJ Costello. And honestly, he was kind of like the prized jewel of the transfer class in terms of quarterbacks. He could have gone to a lot of places. He chooses to team up with Mike Leach in Starkville at Mississippi State. He's supposed to have a really stellar season if he can stay healthy. What happens? He can't. He gets banged up early. The concussion that he sustained at Alabama was kind of his swan song in a Mississippi State uniform. He's replaced by another true freshman, Will Rogers. It looks like he's going to start at Mississippi State this season. So all that circles back around to Drew Pyne in the sense that Drew Pyne might be Mississippi State's 2019 Garrett Schrader. He might be Mississippi State's 2020 Will Rogers. I've just seen enough of a graduate transfer coming in that's Jack Cohn with this Notre Dame team, obviously, and that he's supposed to be the guy. He's supposed to lead Notre Dame to another double-digit win season, maybe even the college football playoff. But who knows what's going to happen with Jack Cohn. Drew Pyne's just kind of waiting there for his moment, and I honestly think that he might get that moment. And if he does, if he starts even one game for Notre Dame this season, then I think that validates my ranking of putting him in the top 10, because you only get 12 of these regular season games, and if he gets at least one of them, then, I mean, that's already mighty important.
Yeah, good perspective here from Tyler Horka, new Blue and Gold beat writer. What are kind of your expectations for Pyne? I know you just kind of touched on it there, but I mean, it's not even a foregone conclusion that he's going to be the backup.
Everything that we know about Drew Pyne is that he's a gamer, and if you're a backup quarterback and you're coming into a situation where, okay, not a lot of people think you're going to be the starter in day one, against Florida State and Tallahassee, but who knows, you might be that starter the next week or even a month after that. So just for him to have that mindset that I might play, and I might play a lot in year two at Notre Dame, I think he's one of the most important players on this team.
On my personal list, I had BRADEN LENZY at number 15, but he checks in at number 22 on our list of the most important players for Notre Dame this season. LENZY averaged 18.9 yards per touch as a sophomore. More of those touches came on the ground than through the air, but he averaged 23.1 yards per catch and 15.4 yards per rush. He had 2 receiving scores and 2 rushing touchdowns. He's a proven playmaker. Good things happen when BRADEN LENZY gets the ball in his hands, but there are certainly question marks with him in terms of health. He has been banged up throughout his Notre Dame career, but if he's able to stay healthy and consistently separate from defenders with that game-breaking speed, BRADEN LENZY might be a guy that we look at after the season and kick ourselves for having him way too low. Here's number 21 on our list, JAYSON ADEMILOLA, a player who wasn't featured a ton last season, but when you see those spring clips that Notre Dame sent to the media and we featured so much on our YouTube page, he was a standout guy, someone we expect to even be maybe not a lock to start, but certainly a favorite to this fall. He stands out because of his interior pressure ability. His 11.5 pass rush win rate ranked 49th among 200 defensive tackles with at least 140 pass rush snaps per Pro Football Focus. ADEMILOLA moves into a starting role that should allow him to play 300 to 350 snaps this fall. That's a lot of playing time, and he's expected to be impactful in it after a strong finish to his 2020 season. Chris Tyree was one that our staff couldn't quite agree on. Todd Burlage had him as high as number 10. Tyler Horka had him all the way at 23. But all 5 staff members at Blue and Gold had Tyree in their top 25. Personally, for me, he was number 17. My reason for the ranking is if you do have Kyren Williams go down, Chris Tyree becomes so important. And if Chris Tyree does reach potential that we think he has this season, that Notre Dame offense gets such a huge boost. I could see a situation where Kyren Williams and Chris Tyree are your best 2 players on offense. You put them on the field at the same time. I think both have versatility to line up in the slot and be dynamite there. really exciting stuff about Chris Tyree. Here's a guy who I've been very vocal about as someone I see playing in the NFL after this season, and I had him lowest in the top 25 per our staff. I had him at number 24. Angle had him at 16, Horka 14, Burlage 13, Downey 19. So I'm looking like a hater here and bringing down Davis's ranking. But let me be clear, I think this guy is being slept on by Notre Dame Nation. I think he has a higher ceiling than most people think. Him in the slot, his technician ability as a route runner, ball skills are really good. I think he's got better speed than people realize as well. All in all, Avery Davis definitely someone to keep an eye on this season. And the last player we'll touch on in this video, Josh Lugg, checking in at number 18. I had him all the way up at number 7, and I think that's partly because I value protecting the quarterback so much, and also it's really important to get things going in the run game. But you look at Lugg, he's been a mainstay in this Notre Dame offensive line going back to the 2019 season. So he's been playing for a couple years. He's going to be a shoo-in as a starter. He has the versatility to play from left tackle to right tackle. I think if you take him off of this Notre Dame offensive line, it loses a really strong player. That's going to do it for this video. What do you think about our rankings so far? Make sure you go to blueandgold.com to check out the rest of our list. We're putting out a new article from our top 25 group each day. Hit the thumbs up if you like what you saw in this video. Subscribe to our channel for more content, and we'll catch you guys next time.